continue on the path that we're on right now, in all likelihood, electricity prices for a typical customer are going to be 20% higher in 4 or 5 years' time than they are now. And that's even if wholesale prices halve. So, we completely support the decarbonisation of electricity. That will begin to bring wholesale prices down. But the non-commodity costs are adding about £300 of pressure onto a typical bill. We've got to do something radical to address that.
If I look at the non-commodity costs, policy costs, network costs, then certainly some of the numbers, some of the modelling that we have suggests that you could get to a position by 2030 where if the wholesale price was zero, bills would still be the same as they are today. Rachel's point is important, that I don't believe there is a silver bullet here. I think what I mentioned earlier was there are a number of things. One, yes, I do believe that the role that gas plays in the wholesale market needs to be addressed. We heard earlier a reference to a report from Stonehaven which suggests that if you move the gas plants into a strategic reserve, then that could potentially save consumers £5 billion per annum. That's something that we should look at. And something that we should consider to help bring bills down. In addition to that, if I look at the non-commodity costs, policy costs, network costs, then certainly some of the numbers, some of the modelling that we have suggests that you could get to a position by 2030 where if the wholesale price was zero, bills would still be the same as they are today because of the increase in those non-commodity costs. There are things that I think we can do there. We can move some of those non-commodity costs, particularly the legacy policy costs, feed-in tariff, climate change levy, renewable obligations, off the electricity bill. That would help bring bills down. Well, that's for policymakers. That's for policymakers to decide.
We're asking you. You're sitting in front of us.
Personally, I think policymakers have to make a decision as to where they believe those costs are best borne, and whether they believe, to the point that was made earlier, that the incentives being offered to build infrastructure are necessary.